Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 9 preview episode of Stacking the Box. Iain MacMillan here. Sterling Holmes with me, as always. It is also not only a Week 9 preview episode, it is the Halloween episode of Stacking the Box. You would know if you're watching this on video, if you look at me, you would not know if you look at Sterling because he did not wear a costume.
No, I wore a costume. This is
my
normal
costume,
guy
Sterling
costume.
Holmes?
It's my normal dude costume. Yeah, it's just like a normal guy. Hey guys, just a normal dude.
Yeah. There's always a guy at a college party that always shows up, just dresses himself, and that's what he says. It's a lame move.
And
what happened? You didn't have time. You forgot it was Halloween.
But it's all of the above. Yeah, I'm a busy man. I don't have a bacon suit rocking around, laying around that you wear every single time, by the way.
I know.
Does that make it worse that you wear it every single year? I almost think it makes it worse.
It's play the hits. It's a classic.
Oh, is it a classic?
Yes.
Oh, is it a hit?
Yes.
Yeah, Chance. Isn't it the same costume you wore last year, Iain? Yeah, it is.
It's the same costume I've worn for 5 or 6 years now.
So I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
It's better than no costume.
One.
No, it's better than no costume.
I'll go as Iain. Guys, the Chiefs are frauds. They're bums. Oh, go Falcons. Go Falcons. I drink my milk out of a bag, eh? Oh, I'm going as Iain.
You know, I speaking of Halloween in Canada, actually, I saw a list recently of chocolate bars that I had no idea were Canadian-only chocolate bars that I grew up on.
Wait, they have Halloween in Canada?
Yeah.
Huh.
And we have so many good chocolate bars that Americans don't even know of. Good Coffee Crisp, Crispy Crunch, Mr. Big. You guys don't even know of these chocolate bars, and they're the best ones out there.
Mr. Big was a character in Wayne's World. Don't try and fool me.
It's also a chocolate bar in Canada. Also in Canada on Halloween, which I believe I've learned since I've moved here, that is a Canadian thing only, that we give out chips on Halloween, like little mini bags of chips, which I hear is not a thing in the States. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you gave me chips, I would crunch them and throw them back. Not actually. Yeah. I'd eat them. I like chips a lot. But actually, the older I've gotten, the more I'd say, yeah, actually, thanks. Please give me chips. And you have any salsa, that'd be great, too. Yeah, I don't. You give me an apple, no. You give me candy corn, somehow that's the worst of them all. You give me a bag of chips, I'll allow it, but I won't be thrilled.
And that's basically how we looked at it growing up. Chips was probably the most common thing that you'd get, and it was always like, okay, I'll take the chips, but they're fine. There's certainly worse things to give out. There's certainly better things to give out. All right, we got to get through our preview here. We're also going to have Lior come on to talk some fantasy football, and then we'll wrap the show up with our picks. Sterling remains hot with his picks. We'll get into that at the end of the show. But before we get into anything here, it is the greatest time of year again. Not only is it Halloween, football is also, it's back. And it's here to stay till February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats. I love Underdog. I talk about it all the time about how I play Underdog specifically on primetime games. I should have had a lineup ready, set to go for Thursday night. I do not yet, but I will have one, and I'll have to tweet it out. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code Stacking the Box. That is Stacking the Box, all one word. And Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Stacking the Box to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concern with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call it 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY 467-369. All right, let's start with okay, what's your costume now? I like it.
I'm Top Gun.
All right, I like it.
Does that work? I don't know what I am.
It's good enough. One of my best friends, shout out Sean Healy, goes as he used to be a referee for hockey. So he just wears his referee shirt, and then he wears a pair of sunglasses just like that, and he just goes as a blind referee. So if you have like a ref shirt, you can just toss that on and be a blind referee.
Oh, I don't have a ref shirt.
Oh,
why would I have one laying around?
Maybe you used to ref a sport. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you used to be a volunteer soccer referee. I don't know. Who knows?
Volunteer.
All right, let's get into Thursday Night Football. The Houston Texans against the New York Jets. I might go to this game, Sterling. I think this is going to be my last opportunity to go to an NFL game while I live in the United States, at least here in New York. So I might go to this game. Tickets are super cheap, though, because the Jets suck.
Are you moving back or something? Is this a thing?
Oh, yeah, I'm moving back next spring.
What? How have I not known this? Congratulations, I guess. Are you excited or?
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, okay.
I mean, it's not going to make a difference. My background might be slightly different, but other than that, I'll still be here.
Well, I was sad for a second. I was confused.
No, we'll all be good. But I can't. It's watching NFL games while living in Canada is going to be a little tough unless I want to cross the border and go to Buffalo. So I've limited opportunities to go to NFL games. So I think tomorrow night might be my last chance here. So I may go because, like I said, tickets are cheap because Jets fans have given up on the season. It's also Halloween night. I might also, if I go, wear this costume to the stadium and see what happens there. So Jets, surprisingly, a 1.5 point favorite. Does that surprise you, Sterling?
I am shocked.
Yeah.
I'm befuddled. I am perplexed. I don't understand. What does Vegas know? What do people know that I don't? I know it's in New York. How the hell are the Jets favored over the Houston Texans? I get it. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
Dude, the Jets are buns. They're ass. The Texans are at least a good team overall. I don't understand this one at all. You should go to the game, by the way. The Texans are at least fun. Your last chance to probably see Rodgers in person for you. So, yeah, I'd recommend going. That'd be kind of cool for you. And you're going to see New York just bet the Texans and win money. So, I feel like that's a win all in itself.
I'm on the Jets.
Why are you on the Jets?
Let me make the case for the New York Jets to not only win this game. I mean, obviously, if they win, they're probably going to cover. It's a 1.5 point spread. Texans offense, actually, surprisingly, if you look at the numbers, not as good as you might think so far this season. 20th in the NFL in EPA per play, 25th in offensive success rate. I don't know if it's because Nico Collins has been hurt. I think CJ Stroud has taken a small step back. I'm not going to say he's, all of a sudden not a good quarterback. He's still a good quarterback, but he's not playing as well as he did in his rookie season. And the Jets, 2-6 record, not good. But 13th in net yards per play, 9 minutes into the show before I mentioned net yards per play. 13th in the NFL in net yards per play. I do think the Jets are better than their record is. 2-6. They're better than a 2-6 football team.
Yeah,
their defense is still very good. What?
I'll give them 3-5.
Okay, 4. I think they're like a 4-4 team, to be honest. Their secondary is still very, very good. Texans are banged up. No Stephon Diggs now. I see why the Jets are favored. I think it's a buy low spot on the Jets.
Well, you're not really buying low because you're buying them as the favorite still.
Buy low in the court of public opinion.
All right.
Producer Sean says 5 of 6 Texans wins have been by 2, 6, 4, 3, and 3. I rest my case. The Texans have been on the right side of a lot of coin flip games. The Jets have been on the wrong side of a lot of coin flip games.
It's the NFL. Yeah. Almost every game comes down to 1 or 2 plays. Almost every game is decided by that margin. The Chiefs, that's what they do. Are we?
Texans are 6-2 with an average scoring margin of plus 1.1.
Sure,
that's 15th in the NFL.
It's called winning.
Yeah.
The
Falcons have a negative average scoring difference.
What's an almost win?
A win.
No, an almost win is a loss. You almost
win. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Right.
I hate that argument. I think it's just so silly because no one ever talks about when things go their way and they still lose. They think of the one thing that went wrong. That's my point. Good call, Chance. It's a weak narrative. Almost every game is a close game. The NFL is based on parity. That's what they do.
I could not disagree more. The Lions have an average scoring margin of plus 14.3.
Did I say that?
The Texans are just as good as the Lions because I guess the Lions have one more win. But no, listen, if you're only going to evaluate teams based on the record, I think that's the silliest thing you can possibly do.
No, of course not. I'm not saying But everyone knows the eye test, everything tells you the Texans are a good team. The Jets have not been a good team. They've been a disaster. They've yet to win since they fired Robert Saleh. Like,
I'm not
fine.
saying the Texans
We're moving on.
are.
We don't have time
I'm saying
for
the
this.
Texans aren't as good as the record, is what I'm saying. They're still a good team. They're not as good as the record.
Fair. I think they're a 3-5 team and they're 2-6. And I was a guy who was very high on the Jets coming out this year. I was. So,
right.
Jason, we'll have on some fantasy football talk a little later in the show. It says offered Ferguson and Pacheco for his Bowers and McLaurin, half PPR. Which RB do I drop? Braylon Allen or Dowdle? You have Brees. Probably, I guess, drop Dowdle. Because if you have Brees, you're going to want Braylon Allen as a handcuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dowdle.
Yeah.
For sure. No brainer. All right, we'll agree to disagree on that one. I'm on the Jets, though. I do think they have a little bit of a bounce back performance here. And I think we're going to see some regression in the Texans are going to go on a mini losing streak at some point this season. Raiders have been almost winning games for the last 20 years. I mean, I wouldn't count a minus 8.3 average scoring margin as almost winning games. They're losing games by an average of 8.3 points. All right, moving on to Sunday's games, Dolphins and the Bills. I assume you like the Bills in this one too.
Yeah, I like the Bills in this one.
Love the Dolphins in this one.
Yeah, you always love the Dolphins. And how have they fared for you?
I am, yes, you're right. But Dolphins preseason, unfortunately, were my Super Bowl pick. Has not turned out well, but they looked a lot better last week with Tua back in the lineup. That you can't deny.
They looked a lot better.
Yes.
They still lost.
They did still find a way to lose, yes.
You know who called that one?
Did you?
Yeah, that was my upset.
Cardinals were your upset pick, yeah.
So the Dolphins are fine. Offensively, they were much better with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. That's not a conversation. They were inept without a quarterback. Their defense looked solid when Tua was out. Tua comes back. That was my concern. The defense goes, okay, we've done our job. Tua's back. We can almost lay off just a little bit now. They marched on the field, gave up the game-winning field goal. So, I like the Bills in this one. I wouldn't say big. 6 points is pretty big. I don't know if I want to touch the 6-point spread, but I think it's a fair line in this one.
Broncos and Ravens. The Ravens are 9-point favorites in this one. Pretty big favorites, especially coming off an upset loss to the Browns. And the Broncos, are the Broncos a good football team? A question that I think we have asked now several weeks in a row because they continue to win games. Now, they haven't played against, this is by far their toughest challenge all season, I think. If not all season, at least for a while. They were on a stretch playing bad teams. How do you kind of view this game? Let me ask you this way. Should the Ravens be 9-point favorites? That
seems high. That does seem high.
Yeah.
The Ravens are a team that they traditionally blow. They've lost to the Raiders this year, but in the past they have traditionally blown out bad teams. Like I'm never surprised when the Ravens win by 17 points. Like they're a team that doesn't let up, and they're so good running the football and so explosive and effective that when they do run the football, they're just as liable to score a touchdown on the ground than they are making a big pass, right? Like that's their identity. So they're going to be good using their identity. So when they get up, they're very good at icing games out in that regard. But 9 points is a lot. The Broncos defense, I think, has been damn good. Bo Nix has been impressive, although you and I have both talked about him missing some easy throws, even though they still are winning. To me, this is a big game for the Broncos. You don't have to win this game. The Broncos don't have to win this game to show that they're at least a for real team or at least a wild card contender. But you got to be in this game. You got to keep it close. You got to find ways to move the football, which the Ravens defense can be taken advantage of this year. They're not the same Ravens defense as they have been in the past. I like you messing with your bacon.
Every time I just look at this costume, it makes me giggle every time. Sorry,
I like it.
Go on.
But I think 9 points is too much, man. I think it's just too many points to give up.
We talked about it last week. The Ravens secondary is terrible. And there's one stat that I want to bring up in that the Ravens defense gives up the most plays of 20-plus yards compared to every other team in the NFL. And it's most by a wide margin. They have given up 39 plays this season of 20-plus yards. That is the most in the NFL by 5. The next closest team is 34, the Jaguars. You can't win games and cover 9-point spreads if you're giving up plays of 20-plus yards. The fewest are your Chiefs, only giving up 15 plays of 20-plus yards.
Well, the Chiefs are explosive plays on both sides. They don't get explosive plays, and they don't give up explosive plays.
For the Ravens to not only win games, but to cover big spreads, they need to score 30-plus, maybe even 40-plus points like they did against the Buccaneers a couple of weeks ago. And if they don't, forget covering the spread, they might not win the game, as they didn't last week. So, Broncos might be in this one.
Yeah, I think 9's too much.
Commanders and Giants, 3.5-point favorites in favor of the Commanders. Do you find that spread surprising? Because I think this might be the most surprising one of the week.
Seriously, you think no, I thought it was a good line.
Interesting. Okay.
The hooks, the reason why I'm not taking the Commanders, that 3.5, if it was 3, I'm hammering Washington.
Wow.
Because I think at worst you push. I know the Giants lost to the Steelers, but the Giants, I left that game thinking, okay, all the pre-snap penalties, all the penalties in the game, but they were in that thing until the very, very end. Like, they do have some defensive players. They do have some offensive weapons. Tyrone Tracy, if he plays, is a explosive difference maker at running back. Wan'Dale Robinson.
He's very good.
Yeah. Wan'Dale Robinson is a safety net. He catches almost everything underneath. Malik Neighbors is obviously Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton starting to get a good connection with Daniel Jones. I guess where I'm at with that is if Tyrone Tracy plays and if they clean up some of the pre-snap penalties, which I wouldn't expect them to have that many in back-to-back games, I could see the Commanders staying in this. I mean, the Giants staying in this one at home as well. That hook gives me cause to pause. I feel like the Commanders win, but if the Commanders only won by 3, that probably seems most likely.
And that's what they won by in the first meeting between these two teams. But let's not forget the Commanders scored 21 points without scoring a single touchdown. It was how many field goals is that? 7 field goals?
Yeah.
My thing here and why I really like the Commanders, because at this point of the season, I think we've seen enough to know the Commanders offense is for real. They're not just kind of a flash in the pan kind of thing. If you look at EPA per play, both on the ground and through the air, there are 3 teams that are significantly better than the rest of the teams in the NFL. It's the Ravens, the Bills, and the Commanders. If you look at it like a graph, they're by themselves in the top right-hand corner of the graph. Do I have enough faith the Giants offense can keep pace with the Commanders offense? No. The Commanders will have to have like a B- offensive game to not run away with this one. Or the same thing happens, they just can't score touchdowns and have to kick 7 field goals again. So
yeah,
I like
and the Giants defense did the same thing against the Steelers. They give a lot of yards, a lot of big plays, and then they get to the red zone, and the Giants were nails.
Yeah, fair.
So
the Raiders against the Bengals 7-point favorites in this one.
Yeah. The Bengals, I don't know what to make. That loss to the Eagles is huge, right? Because we were talking about whoever won that game almost catapults into playoff position. Whoever loses is going to be tough to climb out of the hole. Well, the Bengals lost that game. This is a good bounce back game for Cincy. They need this one. Their offense is great. The Raiders are banged up. I don't know if they're rolling over or not. They only lost by 7 to KC, but it was a garbage time touchdown. Yeah, I like Cincy in this one. Again, whenever you start getting to 7 or more points, I start to get a little nervous. Just, again, the backdoor covers. The same thing happened against Kansas City, right? The backdoor. I'll take the Bengals, though. Again, if it was 7.5, I'd probably take the Raiders, but exactly 7, no hook. Give me Cincy.
My best spread bet of the week is in this game, so I'll wait until we get to our picks at the end of the show before I give my thoughts. Chargers-Browns. Is Jameis Winston going to now do for the Browns what Joe Flacco did for the Browns last season?
Well, that's what you hope. You hope he does what Joe Flacco did and not what Andy Dalton did, right? You hope it's an extended period of success and not just a one game, hey, look at this, look what we can do, and then it's okay.
Which we've seen from backup quarterbacks in the past.
Oh, Matt Flynn.
Andy Dalton this season.
I mean, the list goes on and on. So we'll see.
Was it Josh Dobbs last year?
Josh Dobbs. He did it for a couple games, but still. The Browns are talented. I think defensively there's still some guys, but no JOK. The Chargers run the ball a bleep ton, and Justin Herbert's really starting to throw the football very, very well. Herbert's starting to get that connection with Ladd McConkey. Ladd really broke out last game. He catches everything thrown his way for the most part. I'll go Ladd. I'll go Ladd and the Chargers in this one. I'm going with the Herberts.
My best total bet is actually in this game, so I will reserve my thoughts for this game until the end as well. But one game that I do have a ton of thoughts on, which actually is my other pick, Cowboys Falcons. Why don't you start?
Well, Cowboys need this. Falcons kind of need it, but Cowboys really need this game. I'll go Cowboys because they're desperate, man. Like, I think if the Cowboys lose this, McCarthy might get fired. Maybe I'm being too dramatic here. Maybe you don't get fired after this one, but there's a lot of pressure. If he doesn't, let me put it this way. If they don't win this game, that seat is very, very hot.
Yeah, their season might be over if they lose this game.
So how will the Cowboys respond? I think the Cowboys are talented enough to win this one. I don't know if I'd pick them outright, but I would for sure take the Cowboys with the points to give me at least a slight buffer.
2.5.
Yeah, I would at least take the Cowboys with a 2.5. Even though it's not a lot, I would prefer that one.
When you look at this game from a metrics and analytics standpoint, it seems like the Falcons are going to win and going to win handily because the Cowboys, not only defensively, but offensively as well, a bottom 10 team in just about every single metric you want to look at. They are the worst run defense specifically. With that being said, I have the same feeling about this game for the Falcons that I had the week that they had to play the Seahawks. The Falcons are going to lose this game. This is just a game that they have not played well in their home field all season. CeeDee Lamb against A.J. Terrell is not a matchup I like for Atlanta. A.J. Terrell has not had his best stuff all season. Actually, Mike Hughes, their second corner, has actually been the better of the two corners this season. The Falcons have a lot of issues defensively. I wish I could watch Falcons games as not a Falcons fan because they seem fun to watch.
They're great to watch.
Yeah, they're not fun for me to watch, to be honest. I mean, it's better. I'd much prefer watching this version of the Falcons than the version of the Falcons I've had to watch the past 2 seasons. But their defense is so frustrating. They can't get off the field on third down, 30th in opponent third down conversion rate. Their offense is very good, but it feels like the Falcons need to score every single drive. Anytime the Falcons punt, my brain goes like, okay, well, there we go, game over. We've lost this one. Their defense is not good. Zero pass rush. The scheme is not good. It's bend but don't break, but then they break in the first half all the time. They're going to lose against talented offenses, which is what they did when they played the Seahawks. I think they lose this game. I think the Cowboys bounce back, and I think the Falcons lose. And I've been right about every single Falcons game this season except for week 1. So,
yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, it's my upset pick of the week is the Cowboys. Patriots and Titans, the toilet bowl of the week. These two teams currently hold the number 2 and number 3 overall pick in next year's draft if the season were to end today. If you're a fan of either of these teams, would you be rooting to lose this game? Because this game, obviously neither of these teams are going to make the playoffs. This game will have a significant impact on the draft order next year.
Drake May's questionable, correct? He's not officially out yet.
I don't think it's been
with the
announced
concussion.
Who's playing.
If you're the Patriots, you just want to see Drake May do something, right? Win or lose, I don't think it matters because you have your quarterback, right? So I think if you're the Patriots, you're almost less than you have to tank. I think you want to see something from Drake.
Jacoby Brissett is, and this just came out 4 minutes ago from the Boston Globe, the planned starter versus Titans because Drake May has not come out of concussion protocol yet.
Okay. So now it really doesn't matter this particular game. If you're the Patriots, though, I don't think it matters season long because you have your quarterback. That's typically when you need to be top 5 to get your guy, right?
Sure.
So I think the whole tanking thought is less so for the Patriots. Titans, though, they It's not Will Levis. We know that. Mason Rudolph ain't your guy.
Yeah. Do we know who's starting in that? It doesn't matter. They're the same guy.
I hate, though, the tanking mantra. The reason is, think of all the everyone's like, think of the quarterback you could get. Okay, well, think of the 53 guys that are currently on the roster. Think of all the defensive players, the offensive linemen, guys who are fighting for the job, fighting to make contract extensions, trying to get signed for another year or two, right?
No, guys don't purposely lose games.
Yeah, 100%. And so I just I'm never a fan of the tanking thought process.
No, coaches are never trying to lose. Players are never trying to lose. They're all coaching and playing for their job. But how I look at tanking is, as a fan, how should you treat a game if your team stinks? Should you be rooting against your team?
And we saw that with the Texans. And the Texans got it right because they won, then got 2, and then got C.J. Stroud.
Right.
So sometimes even then it doesn't work the way you think it's going to. I don't know. Patriots came off a nice win. That was a nice win over the Jets.
They're underdogs in this game, by the way, significantly, 3.5.
Yeah, give me the 3.5. I don't think the Titans' offense is good enough to warrant 3.5 points. So I'll take the 3.5 point spread.
I'm obsessed with betting on the Titans. I lose every week, but I look at their defensive numbers. Their defensive numbers are definitely top 10, if not top 5. The issue is their offense and special teams. I mean, last week was a perfect example, but it happened in the Bears in week 1. It kind of happened against the Jets as well. Their offense and special teams are not only do they not score points, they do things to hand points to the other team. It's unbelievable. I mean, we talked about it on Monday's show about the game against the Lions. So
hilarious.
So I will still once again believe in the Titans, and it's not going to work, but I'll just continue to bet on them. Another toilet bowl game. That was the AFC version of the toilet bowl this week. We got an NFC version, the Saints and the Panthers, but it does look like the Saints are getting Derek Carr back. I don't think that's confirmed yet.
Yes, it's not confirmed, but he was a limited participant Wednesday. But the thought is that Derek Carr is still in a trending towards starting on Sunday.
Yes. And as a result, the Saints are touchdown favorites against the Panthers.
Yeah, at first I thought it was Spencer Rattler, and I was like, oh, I'm ripping the Panthers. That's going to be my best bet. I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, I'll take Bryce Young and the Panthers against Spencer Rattler and the Saints. But Derek Carr, that does change things. I think 7's probably a little too much. Maybe I'm wrong here. That seems a little rich for my blood. Even it's his first game back, right? It's going to potentially be a little rusty. Bryce Young actually has occasionally shown some flashes, more so this year than last year. He's still just check down Charlie, right? It's still like he'll be like 15 of 18, but it's like 19 or like 90 yards. It's like everything's just a check down. I would go Saints money line, but I wouldn't touch the 7 points. I think that's a little too rich.
The fascinating storyline in this game is that Jonathan Brooks, one of the top running backs drafted this past year, is expected to potentially make his first NFL debut.
Expected to potentially, or potentially expected, or
tomato. I think he is gonna. I don't think he's gonna start. I think he's gonna get a couple carries. So I mean, that'll be interesting. But Panthers, no Deontay Johnson. Bryce Young will be starting. I will not fall for the trap of. I've fallen for the trap where like I feel like I'm being like a contrarian sharp by like taking the points of the Panthers. Just don't do that. They stay.
Well, I know I really thought Panthers points was the smart move, but I don't think I could do it. I just don't think.
Eagles and Jaguars. Eagles, love the Eagles here. 7.5 point favorites at home to the Jaguars. Jaguars defense is truly atrocious. Their secondary is probably the worst in the NFL, and the Eagles are firing on all cylinders. The Eagles, right now, in my opinion, are the second best team in the NFC.
Yeah, 7.5 is a weird line, right? Just because you're starting to get up there, and I keep saying, once you start getting to 7s, I don't know if I want to touch it. I'd probably still go Eagles though. Yeah. Like as Sean said a couple of weeks ago, once they put Cooper DeJean into the slot, the defense has looked a lot better in the secondary. Offensively, they are starting to get rolling. Again, my thoughts on Sirianni, but there's just so much talent on that Eagles team. Jacksonville is brutal right now. Doug Peterson obviously does know Philly very well, knows what they like to run, at least knows some of those players. Wonder if that gives them an advantage or not. But Sean goes, will we boo him? Would they boo Doug Peterson? They shouldn't. He brought a Super Bowl there. I'd be shocked. I would be surprised if I'd be, who knows? Yeah,
Don't they have a statue of Doug Peterson, or is a statue of Nick Foles?
Should be both. Should be both.
Or is it both?
Yeah, it is both.
It's both.
You
can't boo a guy who you have a statue of. If you boo Doug Peterson, then you got to take down the statue.
I like that rule.
Yeah.
I like that rule. Yeah, give me the Eagles on this one.
Okay, Bears Cardinals. This is basically a pick'em. Cardinals are technically a 1-point favorite, but based on the juice, it is a pick'em. It is a coin flip. So Bears Cardinals. Bears trying to come back after suffering that Hail Mary loss to the Commanders last week. Cardinals find themselves in first place in the NFC West this season. Now, it's not because of a necessarily impressive record. They are just 4-4, but so is every other team in the NFC West, and then the Rams are 3-4. So Cardinals trying to hold on to that top spot in the division. What's your take on this one?
Who told you? I said Texans last year. That's my surprise team. I said going into this year, it's the Cardinals.
Cardinals, yep.
And there they are. I'll talk about this game in more detail on our best bets, but Cardinals are frisky. Again, I don't know if they make the playoffs, but I said they're going to hover around 500. They might be 8-9, 9-8, bordering on that 10-7. People forget how talented Kyler Murray is. I really feel like people forgot how good of a quarterback he is when healthy. And he's healthy. And he's making some plays that only a handful of quarterbacks around the NFL can make. So I'll talk about this game a little bit more later on.
Love the Bears in the spot. Bears defense is so good. Their secondary is so good. It's just, as if their offense can do something. Their offense couldn't do anything last game. If they could have done anything against the Commanders, they would have won that game. And I feel, to me, this is basically the exact same game, to be honest. The Cardinals and the Commanders are kind of the same team. The Cardinals are kind of like a slightly worse version of the Commanders.
I think they're very similar. Yeah, you're right. I mean, talent-wise,
offensively,
everything.
Very good. Defensively, they stink.
Yeah. No, that's a very good call. They're very, very similar style.
So I think if you bet the Bears against the Commanders, I think you got to bet them again against the Cardinals. And if the flip side is true, I think if you bet the Commanders last week, I think you got to bet the Cardinals this week. I don't think anything's changed. I think they're basically the same team.
Yeah, I'm betting the Cardinals, by the way. So.
Swiss in the chat said, I missed the beginning. Lose a bet or win for that outfit. Bacon for beating Baker last week. No bet was involved. This is my Halloween costume. It's Halloween, Swiss, if you didn't know that. I know you wouldn't know that it's Halloween based on looking at Sterling, but this outfit is not related to a bet. It's my Halloween costume. Is
it Halloween in Canada or something? Because it's not in the United States.
Okay, so we don't have a show on Halloween. It's the day before Halloween.
You could have told me. You could have told me to dress up. You didn't tell me.
I told you on Monday. And you even said on Monday, yeah, I'm probably not going to. I'll probably forget. And to be fair, I didn't remind you this morning, which I said I was going to.
Yeah, see? Not on me.
Lions and Packers. Lions, 3.5-point favorites. We do not know if Malik Willis or Jordan Love will be playing in this game yet, unless something happened in the past hour. Do you think this line of 3.5 points reflects Malik Willis starting, or do you think it reflects Jordan Love starting?
I think it reflects Jordan Love starting, personally. If it was Malik Willis, I think it'd be way more than 3.5. Don't you? I mean, I think if it was Malik Willis, I think it'd be like 6.5.
2-0 when Malik Willis starts this year.
Yeah, okay, but let's be real.
Yeah, those wins were against the Titans and the Colts. Titans and Colts, I think. So.
Yeah, I would, but they looked fine. Don't get me wrong, and they ran the football very effectively. But I think this line represents Jordan Love, and I like the Lions either way. Until the Lions prove me wrong, the Lions, the Eagles, right now, those look like the two best teams in the NFC. So.
I do really quickly want to bring up Swiss comments here because I do think it is a fair comment about Bears Cardinals. He says, Kyler plays bad. They can still win. If Caleb plays bad, I don't see the Bears winning. Not a bad take, to be honest. Not a bad take. Cardinals run game, probably a little bit better. Lions. I like the Lions. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFL right now.
Hey, we agree.
Best team in the NFL?
No. On who?
That's what I said. I said best team in the NFL. You said, "Oh, I agree."
Wins. I agree on
this
game.
Clip that, and then just like cut it right after he says, "I agree."
You're fake news.
All right, we got to pound through these last couple of games here. Rams, Seahawks. I have no idea really what to think about this game. Did I write this line down correctly? They were 1-point favorites. Are they now 2.5-point favorites? The Rams.
I wonder if that screams DK Metcalf is trending towards out. He was questionable. I hope he plays, but we'll see.
I think they are 1.5 point favorites. I think that was a typo in my notes. But regardless, 1.5 or 2.5, Rams are slight favorites. Rams are a completely different football team with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back in the lineup. Agreed. My issue, though, is with their defense.
Yes. I kind of like the Seahawks. We'll talk about this one more, but I kind of like the Seahawks in this one.
Okay. Sunday Night Football. Anthony Richardson benched Joe Flacco, which I think is the smart move if the Colts want to try to make a playoff push this season. Joe Flacco is the correct move. What do you think about the whole Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson thing?
Correct. If you're trying to make the playoffs this year, Joe Flacco is the correct call. If you care more about development and what you might be in a year or two, then you stick with Anthony Richardson. You have to find that line. It's tough. I know people are complaining about Richardson being benched. Like, you give him 10 starts. I'm with you. But if the locker room, especially after the whole, he took a playoff as a quarterback, called himself out on a 3rd and goal, like, there is something to that. You got to be a leader, too. He's completing, 50% or less of his passes. He's really struggled. He makes a lot of great plays, a lot of big plays. But the AFC is somewhat open right now. There's not really a middle class. And the Colts might feel like if they win this game, you're looking at the playoffs, right? So I understand. I would understand either way, right? Like, I really would. If you stuck with Anthony Richardson because you think the future is more important, and you're like, we're not going to actually win or do anything in the playoffs this year, I get that. But also for some of the guys who are on the team, the offensive linemen, the defense, the guys that are unheralded, they don't care. They just want to get to the playoffs. They also want that playoff check. Let's be real too. I see it both ways. I understand from either standpoint of which way they're coming from.
And the wild card race in the AFC is wide open. I think we can pencil in the Chiefs, Texans, Steelers, and Ravens in the playoff spots, and the Bills. The other 2 wild card spots wide open. The Colts are half a game out of it right now. They are at 4-4. Chargers in the 7th spot at 4-3, and then the Broncos at 5-3. But certainly the Broncos look like a team that could fall out as the season goes on. So the wild card race in the AFC is wide open. If you want to make a push, if you're the Colts, you got to go with Joe Flacco. There is no arguing which quarterback has been better this season. It is clearly Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
With that being said, I will take the Vikings in this game because their run defense one of the best run defenses in the NFL. If you shut down Jonathan Taylor, you can beat the Indianapolis Colts. I'll take the Vikings.
Yeah. Vikings defense has been great.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our fantasy football corner here with Lior. If we can bring him in, we got some things to talk about. Lior, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. And good seeing you guys, as always, ready to talk some ball.
Absolutely. Let's start with one of the biggest pieces of news of the week. Diontae Johnson traded from the Panthers to the Ravens. What does that mean in terms of fantasy football? Is this a good or a bad landing spot for Diontae Johnson?
Honestly, for me, it's hard to think of a worse landing spot for Diontae Johnson from a fantasy football perspective. Not only does it crush his fantasy value, it dings every Baltimore pass catcher's value around him.
Yep.
The Ravens, unsurprisingly, they have the 2nd lowest pass rate over expected in the NFL. I mean, it's kind of a given. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are the offense. They move the ball at their legs, and it's going to remain that way moving forward. So adding another mouth to feed in that aerial attack just complicates matters and makes the entire pass catching group more volatile, in my opinion. And what you were relying on for Zay Flowers before as like a fringe PPR wide receiver too, I think that becomes a lot harder to count on. Mark Andrews, who has finally beginning to reestablish himself, I think he becomes a lot more unpredictable. He was relying on incredible efficiency and touchdown luck. So I think it's just going to be hard to bank on these guys on a week-to-week basis. And from what I saw from Justina Anderson, I believe, who reported it, Johnson's going to be the number 3 guy in that passing attack. It's still going to be Flowers and Bateman, 1 and 2 in the receiving order.
That's interesting. Yeah. Could have been certainly some landing spots for him that would have increased his value, but now he goes to a team in the Ravens who are 3rd in the NFL in rush play percentage, running the ball 51% of plays. So not exactly ideal for a receiver, especially like you said, if he's going to be the number 3 option.
And I'm sure he's thrilled doing that too, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm sure Diontae Johnson noted, I'm sure that he's a great locker room guy. He loves run blocking. I'm sure all those things will end up great for Diontae. No chance that blows up.
He gets to win some games at least.
I was going to say, it can't get worse than Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All right. Stephon Diggs. He's obviously injured. What's this look like for the Texans? What's the fallout looking like with Diggs now done?
To me, this one feels a little more straightforward than Deontay Johnson. No one's going to replace Diggs' presence in production for the Texans, but his injury does cement Tank Dell's presence in two receiver sets, and even makes him the primary option until Nico Collins returns, which is hopefully looking like Week 10, barring any setbacks. So, yeah, I mean, however, Houston's offense, specifically the past game, it hasn't been as effective as many expected heading into the year. Just for whatever reason, things haven't clicked. But most of the blame, I think, can be directed towards the offensive line, which has been borderline abysmal. I mean, they're second in pressures allowed with 85. CJ Stroud is constantly under duress. So until Collins comes back, you got to just imagine they continue pounding the rock and leaning on Joe Mixon, just giving him 20 plus carries as long as game script allows. And I mean, you're starting Dell. You're not feeling great about it, but you're starting him regardless because he's locked into a solid role. And same with Schultz if you need tight end, because I mean, the state of the position is just horrendous. But again, you're not really thrilled about starting any of these guys, and you're not relying on them for consistent production.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Dalton Schultz because I mean we just saw with the Buccaneers how much of a role Cade Otton saw. Kind of his role increased after Mike Evans and Chris Godwin went down for the Buccaneers. So maybe not quite. I mean, I wouldn't bank on Dalton Schultz hauling in 9 receptions for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns this week, but
Yeah.
you agree that we could see maybe a little bit of an increased production by Schultz.
Yeah, I'd say a slight bump, but I'd say they're also two completely different environments. The Bucs
Yeah.
have a terrible defense and just find themselves constantly in shootouts because of it.
Yep.
And the Texans like to run the ball, and they actually have a solid defensive unit. So I mean, it's hard to predict high usage games for Schultz.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us some good buy low targets ahead of week 9? I mean, this part of the fantasy season, I think most people are going to know if their team's in contention. And if you are in contention, want to make a little bit of a playoff push, maybe there's some players out there that you can buy low on.
The first one that comes to mind for me, pretty obvious one, I feel like, is Chris Olave. Talent's never been a question for him. So he's just been a stud. He was drafted as a first-round pick for a reason. And with Rashid Shaheed now out for the year, his role as the Saints' unquestioned alpha receiver is solidified. He's going to soak up a lot of those deep targets that Shaheed had, plus his short to intermediate area stuff that he's always been getting. And Derek Carr appears to be coming back soon, possibly as soon as this week is what I saw. And the defense for the Saints has constantly put them in bad spots. They're allowing 26 points in all but 2 games this year. So the Saints are likely going to continue playing from behind and having to be in situations where they have to force feed Olave. So I think his arrow's pointing strictly upward. And then
Who else
next,
you got?
I got Jalen Waddle. I mean, this one also I feel like, again, pretty obvious. Just Miami Dolphins as a whole, the offense has been down horrifically without Tua. And it wasn't great in Tua's return, but they looked like they kind of stabilized and got back to normal. And chances are the manager in your league who has Jalen Waddle is probably fed up, especially considering he only put up 4 catches for 45 yards in Tua's first game back, finishing as the PPR wide receiver 52. And in my mind, I mean, it can't get any worse than it's been for him or the Dolphins. It's been a rough season, but we've seen him in the past. He's posted 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and Miami's offense has always been one we can bank on with Tua and Mike McDaniel together. So I feel like better days are just ahead for Waddle, and there's no reason to think otherwise.
What about Michael Pittman? With Joe Flacco taking over for Anthony Richardson, obviously, how much of a change does that do for a guy like Michael Pittman Jr., who's been just done nothing this year?
Yeah, I mean, Richardson, he was struggling to complete like 10 passes weekly, so any sort of boost comes from Flacco realistically. But again, I don't know. I think Josh Downs has the advantage there in those slot short area targets, where it's just that's where Pittman has predominantly feasted throughout his career. And I just think Downs is a better player in that regard from the slot. And I think that Flacco is going to continue to prefer him. So I would go Downs, and I'd probably give Pittman a slight uptick in value, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get him personally still.
What about a quarterback? Is there a quarterback you think could be potentially in a buy low spot?
Yeah, I'd say Joe Burrow is the quarterback for me. He's had back-to-back subpar outings, but before that, I mean, we saw he was playing at an MVP level. despite the Bengals win-loss record. He failed to reach 15 fantasy points in consecutive weeks, so now's a good time to strike, I feel like, for savvy fantasy managers. Only Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love averaged more fantasy points than Burrow from weeks 2 to 6. So, I mean, he was clicking with Jamar Chase. They were firing on all cylinders. And the Bengals throw the ball at a high clip. They have a 61.4% pass rate. So I think that's just more reason to buy Burrow. Plus, T. Higgins is coming back soon after suffering yet another midweek injury. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I've never seen someone get hurt in practice more than that guy. It makes you think, like, what is he doing during those practice sessions? But
yeah, I know I need T. Higgins to not do that anymore for the sake of my fantasy teams. Lior, thank you so much for joining us. Let the people know where they can find your work.
Yeah, my work can be found on fansided.com and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. My handle is Lior Lampert1.
All right. Thank you so much, Lior. I appreciate it. That has been the Fantasy Football Corner with Lior. Sterling, we got one thing left to do, and that is get through our best spread, best total, and best upset pick for week 9. You continue to be, some are saying, the hottest bettor on the internet right now. 15-9 on the season, plus 6.23 units. All you do is give out winners. All you do is give out underdog winners too. Some cash and upsets almost every week. So let's start with our spread bet, though. You're looking at Thursday Night Football for your spread bet.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but I changed it. I changed it after you and I talked, and I'm ripping the Texans plus 1.5.
So my case for the Jets did not sell you on that.
It actually swayed me. I originally was with the Cowboys because I think the Cowboys were like 2.5 points. I'll rock with the Cowboys.
But my case for the Jets swayed you the opposite direction.
Correct. Yeah,
it was so unconvincing. You're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking
about. If Ian's on the Jets, yeah, I bleep that. I'm going with the. Yeah. So I'm rolling with the Texans plus 1.5. You know what? Maybe they lose by a point. Still is a winner. So yep. I'll roll with the Texans here.
I'll take the Bengals. I've bet on the Raiders a lot this season, especially last week, and they did cover last week, but watching their offense has been horrific. It's frustrating. They're dead last in the NFL in EPA per play, even worse than the Panthers offensively if you look at EPA. So I think they just run away with this one, or the Bengals run away with this one. I just don't think the Raiders offense can keep up. Best total bet of the week, Sterling.
Yeah, by the way, great call from Swiss Mr. KC. Cayenne pepper doesn't equal wins.
Yeah, that's I had already placed my bet when I saw that. I wanted to get off and bet the Texans. Not good.
Yeah. I'm going Bears Cardinals over 44.5. I know you don't like this one either. I know you're not a fan. Cardinals offense is really, really good. Bears defense, yeah, they're good, but I think the Bears offense will do better than they did against the Commanders. Again, I expect a little higher scoring game. I think you're right as far as Commanders and Cardinals are very similar teams, but I think you'll see a little different game script this time around. I like the Cardinals to win personally, but I like even more than that. I like the Cardinals and the Bears to hit the over.
I'm going to go the over between the Chargers and the Browns, which is a little bit surprising because I don't think the over is hitting a single Chargers game this season. If it has, it's only been like one. But Justin Herbert's hitting his stride. He's been like arguably the best quarterback in the NFL over like the last 3 or 4 weeks. Really coming up with a good connection with Ladd McConkey. And then obviously it doesn't need to be said, but the Browns offense is significantly better with Jameis Winston at quarterback. They can actually push the ball down the field. It's like night and day with someone else at quarterback other than Deshaun Watson. Low total, so I'll take the over 43 between the Chargers and the Browns. Upset pick of the week, Sterling.
Yeah, there are a couple I was looking at, and I wanted to go now with the Seahawks over the Rams. The Rams, to me, are an inconsistent team. The Seahawks are an inconsistent team, but I feel like this is one where the Seahawks at home find a way to win. DK Metcalf being questionable, tough, right? I'm making this pick before we know what DK Metcalf is going to do, if he's in or if he's out. Mm-hmm. He is the definition of questionable. Like, I know how sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, but he's trending towards playing or he's trending towards out. No, I think DK is legit. Like, he could or he couldn't. We'll find out probably right before the game. The Rams defense, I just don't trust. I don't trust the Rams defense. The Seahawks, I feel like I don't ever give enough credit to Geno Smith in that offense in general. Kenneth Walker is just a game changer at running back. JSN, Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant. I think he can make some plays at tight end. I'm going to go with the Seahawks in this one, so I'll go with the Seahawks at home.
I will go with the Cowboys, as I already mentioned. I just have the same feeling that I had ahead of the Seahawks game for the Falcons. This is just one they lose. This is going to be a bounce back spot for Dallas. It'll be a high scoring one. I mean, highest total of the week too, 52. So if you want to watch points, good game to turn on. But I think Cowboys win.
How's mine only plus 108 and yours is plus 120, and both are 2.5 point favorites?
The Rams aren't two. That was a typo. The Rams are 1.5 point favorites.
Oh, that makes more sense then. Well, now I feel kind of icky for picking a close one.
Oh well, there's a few close spreads. This week is kind of it's either like a 1.5 or 2 point spread, or it's like a 7 point spread. So
yeah,
I mean you got a lot of close spread games. And actually Falcons, at least at the sports book I'm looking at, up to 3 point favorites. So let me check this one to make sure I'll give you the best odds I can find here.
No, you're fine. I trust you.
That one's even money. So plus 108 is actually better. All right, there you have it. That is the show. Be sure to sign up at Underdog using the code Stack in the Box. Make a lineup for Thursday Night Football between the Jets and the Texans. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe to Stack in the Box on YouTube. We'll be back Monday morning. I'm running a marathon Sunday, by the way. I don't know if I've talked about it. I'm just going to continue to mention it from now till Sunday. Monday morning, I'm going to be in rough shape.
Good luck,
but
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Well, don't be proud of me yet. Be proud of me when I survive it.
The thought of you even running it makes me proud. Yeah, that's my co-host.
It's a long one.
That's my co-host.
Yeah, so Monday morning, I'll be fresh off that. We'll see what that's like. But yeah, 9:30 a.m., we'll be recapping Sunday's action. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.